Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This has been 1 year since my epic Europe tour, and so this is a recap of my adventures in Greece. We are going to begin my travels to Athens from Los Angeles. I took a charter bus from the airport into the city and walked around for a couple hours before heading to the port. How beautiful is this Silver Seas cruise ship? The room was gorgeous. It had so much space for the private suite, and every room got a personal butler, and I will introduce you to him later. My outfits for the week. I boarded at around 2:30 or 3:30 p.m. and after such a long flight, I was exhausted. But how could I resist exploring the ship? And that gave me a second wind as we left port. The sunset was a gorgeous welcome out to sea, and the temperature was perfect. To welcome us, hors d'oeuvres were served along with champagne. I took the liberty of visiting the libraries and checking out every vista point. This is Nur from Kazakhstan, and he was an amazing butler, and I'll show you why later on. Originally, I had to reserve spaces for dinner, and this one space in particular wanted a deposit because it was the fancy French restaurant. It was completely booked ahead of time, so luckily I walked up to the maître d' and asked if there were any openings, and he said yes, there was one table available, so I took it. And what a great way to end my first evening on the ship. After a good night's sleep, I arose to sunrise, and what better way to have breakfast than watch it rise over the crests of Santorini. The breakfast buffets were incredible and had so many options, and every day was different. I noticed the ship had a lot of lovely art on the way to the ferry that took me to shore. First stop was Oya. I wore blue because I wanted to match the tops of all of the buildings. The buildings are painted white as to reflect the sunlight, and the tops are painted blue to reflect the sky and the sea. The next stop was Santos Winery. I think I got 5 to 7 glasses in, overlooking the beautiful island. I spent the rest of the day in Fida walking along the steps that lined the coast. Eventually stopping to get my first gyro and baklava at a cafe. I eventually made my way down to Skaros Rock, which was not planned, and my poor loafers really made the trek. We found a cruise ship buddy that hiked along with us and explored ancient writings and caves before we had to hike back up to catch the sunset. 2 weeks before my trip, I made reservations at Argo because that was one of the recommended spots to overlook the curve of the island. I made the reservation at around 5:30, which was when the sun was supposed to begin setting, and it was perfect. I also ordered the seafood platter. The gorgeous feast caught the eyes of other tables. Since the cable car was no longer in operation for the day, I ended up taking the donkey trail, and it took longer than I expected because by the time I got to the bottom, it was dark. The lights were really pretty on the way back to the ship. I ended up recapping the rest of the evening with the buddy that was hiking with earlier that day, and we talked for hours, ending up hungry at around midnight, and so we ordered room service at one of the lounges before tucking in for the evening.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Oh, it is just one. And then that one's his.
Yep. I'm gonna bring the team over.
Heck yeah.
This is for the carrot cake.
Wonderful.
Filet mignon.
Thank you. Move utensils. Thank you.
La vie glissait sur nous, sur notre insouciance même. La vie glissait sur nous, sur notre insouciance même. La vie glissait.
We ended up finishing a whole bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label between 6 of us and slept at 6 a.m. So I had to get up pretty slowly the next day because we arrived in Crete. It was a beautiful, placid day with an area for boats and these ducks with gnarly webbed claw feet. I love that there are lots of stray cats that are taken care of.
Are you trying to be cute so you can have some comfy cozies? Oh, yeah, stretch. Oh, yeah, stretch. Yeah.
The water is so blue and inviting. I went back to the ship for a brief break to hydrate and just relax by the poolside before heading out again. I went left instead of right this time after getting off the ship. I absolutely loved this glass sculpture that looked like a giant tentacle.
At the end.
And was pleasantly surprised by the beach, the marina, and lots of artwork that were found in mosaic and painting form. I didn't really have time to relax, and so all of these photos are just posing for the portrait. It was really cute. This cat looked up when the guy sitting at a table called him by Danny. On the way back, I ended up taking the inner streets and crossed over multiple bridges to experience more residential scenery. Upon my return to the cabin, I had to call upon my butler, Noor, because my loafers were splitting, and he went and found emergency super glue in one of the engine rooms to help press my shoe back together. I only needed my shoes to survive another 2 days. While I was waiting, I popped open the bottle of welcome champagne. That evening, I dined on the back patio of the ship as we pushed off into the sunset and had a lovely meal before attending the Italian opera with a cast of 5. Beautiful bonbons were served as well as more champagne. The next morning, I was back on track and watched the sun rise. It was a beautiful shade of red as I ate my breakfast. And as we were pulling into port, I decided to flow a little bit with my silk fans because the scenery was just so beautiful. Check out my full video on my Goddess Mara channel found in the link description below. Today I was visiting the Temple of Athena, which also became a fortress. We walked instead of taking the donkeys. I loved the ivy terraces that were built over the shops, which created really beautiful dappled light on the cobblestones. Stone floors were decorated with intricate patterns.
I don't want to scare you, but I have to warn you, okay? If you're careful, there is no problem. We forget to watch down because the place is beautiful.
Here you could see a boat that was carved into the stone and the types of view that this temple had. All of the pedestals that you see here had a statue of Athena brought from all over the country as tribute. However, most of those got stolen over time. The view was just lovely, and you can see boats in this crater that I would have loved to have visited should I had more time. Instead, on the way down, I was able to briskly walk to a beach where I got to dip my toes for a couple minutes before having to head back to transport. I returned to the ship to have lunch and met up with our hiking buddy who joined us for the rest of the day.
Oh, I feel like heaven. Is there raisins there? No, there's no raisins.
It was surf and turf day, so of course I had to grab a couple of lobster tails as well as some lamb chops. After luncheon, we visited the old town via the D'Amboise Gate to head to the Palace of the Grand Masters. This guy's live music added to the ambiance while we walked around. It served as a wartime fortress as well as a peacetime residence for the Grand Master, and it was a meeting place for senior knights. And we found this marketplace that had a gazebo in the center, as well as other stalls and stores. We passed by these large windmills and the marina on the way back to the boat. The sun was setting and I tried to flow with my fans once again, however this time it was way too windy, so I ended up in the hot tub.
Il avait volé les flèches de l'autre.
Tonight was another fancy dinner, followed by some beautiful snacks and a giant chocolate dragon by the poolside during a night of dancing on the deck.
Aperçu les cœurs du monde d'ici. Alors ils sont entrés dans une rivière de douceur qui voulait couler jusqu'au bout du monde et plus loin encore.
The last day was an excursion to the secret island of Delos in Mykonos. You can find the sculptures of one artist sprinkled across all of the island, including in the ocean. It was a great juxtaposition, bridging modern art with ancient ruins. Lady Gaga actually tried to come here but was spotted and tried to avoid the paparazzi and had to leave immediately. It was great because when we were here, there were no other groups, as it was one ferry in and one ferry out. It was explained to us that cats were brought over to the island because there were a lot of rats and snakes, and the cats were used as exterminators. Everything is almost bleached white here because of the sun, and most days of the year it's extremely windy, so it's rare to have calm seas. The museum was filled with a bunch of different statues and all sorts of history, and outside was a family of black cats that were super sweet and liked to be pet. After docking, it was time to return to the boat, to change out of my drenched clothes, and to grab something quick to eat. I took a short nap, and then it was time to get into my captain attire so that I could do a quick photo shoot as the sun was setting and as we pulled into the Athens port once again. Final nights are always bittersweet, but I got to take a photo with one of the hosts who really loved my eyes. He claimed that it was the most beautiful shape that he'd ever seen. Huge thank you to such a special Silver Seas experience and to a very wonderful crew. Back in Athens, I decided to purchase the city pass and started at the temple of the Olympian Zeus, and continued walking to the Zapion Hall, which was gorgeous, probably holds receptions, and was able to take a little stroll around the National Garden before heading to the apartment I rented. The apartment was about a mile or so from the Parthenon, and I was able to actually see the Acropolis from my window. Before my trip, I had also made reservations just through a few restaurants. After dinner, I had wanted to see a little bit of the nightlife, as I do in any place that I travel, and Kinky Opera showed up on my searches. Right next door is Babylon, and we had a blast. Today was Acropolis Day. I've been wanting to go see the Parthenon forever, even though it was under construction. Just the sheer history that has gone through the ages. I've learned about ancient Greek since I was in 4th grade. The mythology and culture has been just so rich in my life. I wandered down and created a circuit to the Theater of Dionysus, because who is not in love with comedy and tragedy? I circled down back to Hadrian's library, where there was the Tower of the Winds. Having these buildings, or what's left of them, still stand to represent what had happened in the past is just really powerful. The views are also stunning. I also took a break to have a late lunch at one of the local cafes that was right across from the Hard Rock, and then walked across to the Stoa of Attalus, or Attalus. And you can see the Temple of Hephaestus, as well as the ancient Agora of Athens in that area, and continued exploring. At the end of the day, I wanted to try a souvlaki, and it was such a wonderful time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Like this video if you want to see more tour recaps, and I'll see you in my next video.